What's up, everyone? Tensteps here in the studio. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. We got something really cool today. A couple of days ago, I posted on my Instagram asking what you guys wanted me to do studio tutorials and walkthroughs on, and somebody responded that they wanted me to go through how I mix vocals. And I realized that I'd never done that before, so I decided to do it with my new track, The Way We Fall Apart, which is out now on Harmony Music. It's my new collaboration with NOHC, who a lot of you will recognize the voice and the name because that is the same people that I worked with on my track with Standerwick, This Letter, from back in 2019. This is the first time I've worked with them on a Tensteps track since then, so I'm really excited. So far, the feedback's been amazing. Andrew Rael called it his favorite of the moment on Find Your Harmony, and we already have a lot of other awesome support lined up for it as well. So if you haven't heard it yet, go to Spotify or Apple Music or your preferred streaming platform of choice and check it out. Now, before we jump into this video, I do want to apologize real quick for the state of my studio. I don't know how much of the mess you can see behind me, but I'm actually in the process of moving across the country, so I've already started packing up my apartment. There are a lot of boxes and a lot of crap lying around, but I haven't yet broken down my my actual studio gear. That'll happen in about a week from now. So until then, I wanted to make this video to give you guys some cool content while I am moving. So let's jump into the project now here in Logic, The Way We Fall Apart. I'm going to play the hook for you, and that's where we're going to start here.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be. The way we fall apart. Now I find it hard to breathe without you standing next to me. The way we fall apart.
That is the hook to The Way We Fall Apart. Love this song. The vocal came out so nice. So it's a really good track for me to explain some of my techniques because it required a little bit more work than normal. So Suzanne from NOHC, her voice is naturally extremely dynamic. There's a lot of peaks and a lot of valleys. She sings really quietly and then really loudly, which is amazing. It gives the vocal a lot of character and a lot of emotion. But it's really difficult to mix, especially with trance music where you have these really full sounds underneath it, like pads and leads and bass and a lot of things that take up a large portion of the frequency spectrum. Vocals can get lost in there really easily. So I'm going to turn everything off, and we'll get rid of this because we didn't use it. We'll turn everything off here. And this is what the vocal sounds like, totally raw.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be. The way we fall apart.
Now, don't get me wrong. That vocal sounds great. Her performance is amazing, and that's already been tuned and like time corrected. You can see it says vocal hook retimed here. So I have already done all of the time correction. However, there's a lot of work that needs to be done here. So let's jump in. First thing I do when I start a vocal is I EQ. I always take out all the low end. In this case, I brought it up to about 140 hertz. So I'll solo for you what that sounds like under, so you can actually hear what I'm cutting out. So it's all this low-end information that you just don't need. It's a vocal. It's not a bass. We don't need anything down, at 30, 40, 50 hertz. In this particular case, I went up a little higher than I might normally because there are a lot of pads and a lot of things in these lower mid regions, like in the 200 range, even the hundreds range. So I wanted to take a lot of that out as well. And then I also just boosted a little bit here at 2694, just to give it a little bit of extra presence here. So I'll solo that frequency band for you as well.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be.
So you can hear it just cuts through a little bit more. You'll hear it a little bit better once I, put it in the mix and everything. From there, I went to my RX7 mouth declick. This is a go-to plugin for me. basically what this does is it takes out all these mouth sounds, that you hear naturally. It's the saliva in your mouth and the sounds that your tongue makes and your lips make as they naturally move. And the problem is, especially in a song like this where the vocals are so heavily compressed to get them to sit right, those sounds become really, really loud. And I really don't like using any vocal without doing mouth declick. And I wish more producers did this because it does bug me a lot. I hear this all the time in major records. And I'm like, oh my God, I can hear every sound that her mouth is making or that his mouth is making. And it drives me up the wall. In fact, it's driving me up the wall that you can probably hear my mouth sounds right now because I can't use mouth declick through OBS, which is what I use to do my screen recordings and do my tutorials, because the mic is running direct into OBS. I only have a couple of built-in plugins there. I can't actually use mouth declick in OBS, so that annoys me, and I'm trying to figure out a workaround to that. But for the meantime, this is how it is. So I'm sorry about all of my mouth sounds, but I wanted to take them out on this vocal. Now, one of the things that I'll do real quick is I will have it output the mouth clicks only, so you'll actually hear all the things that it's taking out. It's very subtle in this, so listen carefully. And you can also watch the number here, and you'll go up and it'll tell you every time it takes something out. I don't know if you can hear those. It's very, very subtle, but it is taking things out. And it's really, really important for me to have on every vocal. It just makes things sound a lot cleaner. From there, I ran it into a compressor. And that's turned on now, so let's take a listen to this. I'll play it with and without it. This is without. I think I left mouth declick. Yep.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
So it's basically just catching some of the peaks. It's not doing anything too crazy. A lot of this stuff is very subtle. None of this is really doing like a lot for the most part. There's one or two that are doing a lot. But most of this is just doing very subtle things. It's basically a lot of things doing a little. And it adds up to a really big result. So this is just catching some of these peaks here.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be.
Moving on, it goes into another compressor, the Waves CLA 76. This is an 1176 emulation.
Can't believe the words we speak.
And you can see this one is actually doing a lot. This is one of those ones where it's really going at it.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
One thing to note is with the vocal preset on the CLA 76, it'll set the analog to 60 hertz. I actually keep it off. Analog creates this hiss behind the sound, behind the signal. And it gets really annoying. The more you compress it, it gets much louder and louder, especially when you run it through mastering. It becomes very audible in a lot of points in the song. So I always turn analog off. From there, I run it through a Pro DS. This is a de-esser, the Fab Filter one. I've run through a lot of de-essers, the Waves one. I think Logic has a built-in one as well. This is definitely my favorite. Because it's visual. It shows me exactly what it's taking out and where and how much. And I'll play it for you now.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
So anytime there's a sibilant, which is like an S or a T sound, it's going to take that frequency, and in this case, it's reducing it by about 6 decibels anytime it hits the threshold of minus 36 decibels. Super, super useful plugin. A lot of times, well, in this case, I did the female wideband preset and then modified it slightly from there. But most of the time, you can actually leave this on the default and just play with the range a little bit, and you'll be fine. It works really, really well. It's an incredibly intuitive and easy to use plugin, and I highly, highly recommend having it in your arsenal. From here, I will run it through the Saturn from Fab Filter, which is a saturator. It's not doing a whole lot. It's giving it a little bit of drive on the general saturation setting. All of the EQs are zeroed out, They're all at unity. It's not adding much volume, and the mix is only at 50% here. So it's not doing a whole lot, but again, it's subtle. I'll play it without it and then with it.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
There we go. So you can see it's adding a little bit of tone, a little bit of body to it, and it's a little bit of more character to the vocal. There are a lot of settings in Saturn that you can use. For me, I find some of my favorite presets are the gentle saturator, which is what we're using here. The Hall piano dynamic enhancer is really good. Hip hop puncher is good for certain things, depending on what you're doing. I would never use it on vocals, but there are certain like percussion sounds that I'll use it on. I've also used it on keys if I want the keys to cut through a lot. Also, saturating color is a good one as well. And then you can just use those as starting points, and you can modify from there. But Saturn is incredibly useful, and I think it's something that, again, to me is really, really indispensable. From there, I'll run it into, again, the stock Logic compressor. This is going to do a little bit more work.
Can't believe the words we speak.
Just smoothing things out.
This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
And then from there, I ran it back into an EQ. Again, cut out some lows just to be careful, or to be safe, I should say, because things like the Saturn are going to actually add harmonic frequencies in. It can create a signal where there wasn't any or where there wasn't much. So just to be safe, I always roll off the lows again. And then I took out a little bit more here in like the 150 to like almost 300 range. I took out a little bit because this is in this track, there's a lot of pads that live also quite heavily in this area, and I didn't want the vocals to get muddled in with that. So I took that out of the vocal here. And then I also gave the vocal some added presence and air up here in like the 5200 range, but it's really broad. So I'll mute this, or I'll keep this off and I'll play it and then I'll turn it on.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
I mean, you can hear the difference right away. It's significantly brighter and it cuts through. And then from there, we went into RX7 declick. This is different than mouth declick. This is for mic pops and things like that, and mic clicks, not mouth clicks. So this is for actually digital clicks. So when I got the vocal from NOHC, there were a couple of weird artifacts and things I heard in there, so this smooths some of them out. It works the exact same way. It'll tell you, how many clicks are repaired. I'm just going to flip that on. I'm not going to bother playing the before and after. It's just little things that most people wouldn't notice, but I heard. From there, I go into a vocal rider. Everything, by the way, after this compressor here is like this is pretty much where my normal vocal chain stops. Everything under here is where I started having to do extra work on this one because of certain qualities of it, because of how the track was built around it. Every track was unique and has its own unique needs. I don't very often use the vocal rider anymore. I do a lot of that with compression, but in this particular case, it was definitely necessary to do, and I'll show you why. I'm going to open up the automation here, and you're actually going to see this is everything that the vocal rider is doing. So if I press play.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
So this is actually riding the vocal, changing the volume, almost like a compressor might, but it's more of an emulation of what a physical person would have to do at one point in time on an analog desk, and actually moving that fader up and down and trying to ride the signal to get the volume a little more even. So you'll see, even just looking at it against the waveforms, in places where the waveforms gets bigger, this tends to drop. In places where the waveform gets smaller, it tends to let up a little bit and let the vocal be a little bit louder. You can actually have this write the automation to it, so you don't have to do this by hand. But then once it's written, you can set it to read, and you can just go ahead and change things. And maybe you want this to drop or raise, something like that, whatever it might be. You have that ability now. So that is vocal rider. And then from there, I go into one final compressor,
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
And basically, it's just doing some final smoothing out. From there, it goes into a gain plugin, which isn't doing a whole lot, just in certain parts, like here at the end of the second hook, it gets a little bit louder as we go into the drop. And I'll play that with the whole track.
Now I find it hard to breathe without you standing next to me.
Now there's some additional processing that happens on the overall bus here. There's another glue compressor, a gain plugin. So you're not getting the full effect here. Also, there's no reverb and delay yet. But basically, it just needed to sit a little bit higher in the mix rather than letting it get so buried. So that's all that's doing there. And then it pumps up again a little bit more over here down at the end. This is during the last drop when the vocal is part of the drop. So obviously, it has to sit higher in the mix because there's a lot more going on that needs to be heard over. So that's everything that I did on the individual track. For the reverb and the delay, well, actually, before we get to the reverb and delay, I did just turn on the glue. It's the smooth radio preset, and I ran another de-esser on it. I also have LFO tool for some automation. I'm sorry, some side chaining down here in the last drop.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be.
It just needed to duck the kick a little bit there. It just kind of got a little muddy without it. So I wanted to handle that. And then there's also gain automation here. Again, just to pump up things for the last hook and a little bit at the end of this hook. Now, what to me this needed was obviously reverb and delay. The way this vocal is written, and we can see it in both the hook and in the verse, there's a lot of open space, right? There's open space here. I mean, there's space between each of these lines. It's not a very rapid fire vocal. Same thing in the hook. Space, big space. So a lot of these spaces needed to be filled with reverb and delay. So how I did that was I did it on the whole stack, so it affects all three of the vocals, the hook, the verse, and the pre. So we'll go over here, and I'm just going to flip on the reverb, and let's listen to the hook with just the reverb.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
So the way we did this, first, I ran it through an EQ. I busted out, as I've talked about in other videos on this channel. I low cut everything again to 178 hertz, so a little higher than I did on the lead vocal itself. Mainly because I just don't want the reverb I don't want, to hear 150 hertz being reverbed. It gets a little muddy. The reverb is pretty long. It's almost 4 seconds. Again, a little bit of low cut on the reverb itself, up to 87 hertz, just to be safe in case anything were to get through. And then from there, I actually re-EQ'd the reverb a little bit. Took out some of the lower mids and mids in here around 300 hertz, pretty broad. And then I boosted everything from about 1400 hertz all the way up to about 5K. And just kind of gave it a little bit of extra presence there. And then really the most important thing for me with this was side chaining. So this is actually side chained to the dry signal. So anytime the dry vocal hits, the reverb itself is going to duck. And then whenever the dry signal stops, the reverb will come back up. So go ahead and check out this needle, and it'll tell you when the reverb is being pushed down and when it comes back up.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
Now listen to what happens without that.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
Sounds really muddy and messy. So it's super, super important to have this here So it ducks when the dry signal hits and comes up when the dry signal is over. Now I did the same thing on the delay without all the EQing because I didn't find it necessary. But I will play actually without the reverb. I'm just going to play it with just the delay so you can hear.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
And you can already hear that side chain on the delay is still going strong there.
Can't believe the words we speak.
So you can hear it pop up when the dry vocal stops. Without that, it sounds like a complete mess.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the
right? Like I don't even want to listen to that. It sounds gross and horrible and messy. So that side chain on there is really, really important. And it's something that I think a lot of younger producers overlook. They don't realize it's something you can do. I didn't realize it was something you could do for the longest time. It's only been something I've been doing myself probably for the last, 2 years or so, maybe 3. It was a trick I learned, I think, from YouTube. And definitely something that has made my productions a lot cleaner. So I hope it helps you as well. For the delay, we just did a simple quarter note and half note dual delay. So it's a little bit different on each side, and the offset is set differently. So it's one of them is a little bit behind the count, and one of them slightly ahead. It just helps create the illusion of width if things aren't so always to the grid. And that is how I processed the vocal largely. I'm going to play the vocal on its own. Let's actually do it with nothing and then with everything. So here's it with nothing.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
And then here is it with everything.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart.
And finally, the entire hook all together.
Can't believe the words we speak. This was never meant to be the way we fall apart. Now I find it hard to breathe without you standing next to me. The way we fall apart.
So there you have it. That's how I mix the vocals for The Way We Fall Apart. Everything for like the verse, which ended up actually getting bounced down to here because I had to fix something. But this is how it was mixed. It's mixed all the exact same way. I just copy and paste the settings for the most part. If there's any like small tweaks that need to be made for the different parts, I can make them. But by and large, it's the same. And then there were some other like vocal effects, things like the reverse reverbs here. And then over down in this break here. See, I could have done this with an echo or something, like a ping pong delay, or a ping pong echo. I could have used like Echo Boy or something like that. But I wanted to do it manually because I'd have a lot more control over the gain automation. Sometimes it's just worth it to do it that way. So then you get this. And these are also sent to their own reverbs and delays, which again are side-chained. And they have their own qualities that's different from the main vocal. Don't be afraid to use a lot of buses. I mean, in this, you could see I used how many buses? A lot. So these are all my initial stacks, and then everything from 20 down. So I used another 24, 25 buses on top of that, just for effects. So these are all reverbs and delays. I use tons and tons of buses. It just keep things cleaner for me. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to bounce stems when you do it this way. You have to do a lot of things manually, at least in Logic, but it's worth it for the quality of the mix. So that is how I did the vocals for The Way We Fall Apart. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please feel free to drop a comment and let me know what you thought. If there was anything that you would like to know that I didn't answer here, I can always answer some extra questions in the comments, or I can do more videos. After I move, I'm definitely looking forward to doing a lot more videos and being a little bit more active on my YouTube and my TikTok and my Instagram. I know I have been slacking a little bit on content, and I did say I was going to get better at that, and then I didn't. But again, being in the middle of a cross-country move has definitely taken a lot more of my time than I thought it might. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the support on The Way We Fall Apart. Really, the initial reactions have been amazing, and I'm sure there are a lot more to come. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.